Derek's suitcase was already by the front door when I woke up to the sound of drawers slamming. No greeting, no explanation, just noise, frantic and wrong. My heart was still tangled in sleep when he burst into the bedroom, fully dressed, sweat beading along his hairline like he'd sprinted through a nightmare. "Zariah, babe, I gotta go," he said, voice shaking. "Emergency trip. Work needs me in Chicago tonight." Tonight? It was nearly midnight. I sat up slowly, instinct prickling. Derek Coleman was smooth, charming, even in his worst moods. But tonight, his words stumbled out like he was trying to outrun them. "A work emergency?" I repeated. "At this hour? Derek, what's going on?" He avoided my eyes, avoided everything. "Just business. Look, don't make it a thing. I'll call you when I land." The way he said it, flat, cold, made something inside me flinch. But before I could ask anything else, he grabbed his keys, snatched his jacket, and headed out the door like the house was on fire. I heard the front door slam. I stared at the empty doorway, an unease brushing along my skin like a cold hand. After a minute, I forced myself out of bed and walked to the living room, rubbing sleep from my eyes. That's when I saw it. His wallet. Right there on the coffee table. ID, credit cards, cash sticking out like it was taunting me. My breath hitched. Derek was careless with a lot of things, but not travel, not money, not his image. Leaving his wallet behind was like leaving one of his arms at home. "He can't board his flight," I whispered, picking it up. And despite the tension in the air, despite how strange he'd acted, my instinct kicked in. Help him. Fix this. Make sure he was okay. Because that's who I was. That's who I'd always been. I grabbed my coat and ordered a rideshare. The car pulled up fast. Silver sedan, clean, quiet. When I opened the door, the driver turned toward me. He was older, mid-60s maybe, with deep brown skin, stern eyes behind thin glasses, salt and pepper beard trimmed with military precision. Not friendly, not unkind, just watchful. "Miss Langston?" he asked. "Yes," he sided remotely. "Airport, correct?" I nodded, sliding into the back seat. Something about him made me sit a little straighter. He put the car in drive, slow at first, easing into the street. The silence was thick enough to touch. Midway through the ride, he glanced at me through the rearview mirror. "You shouldn't be out this late alone." I blinked. "I'm just bringing something to my husband. He forgot his wallet." The man's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. We rode in silence for another few minutes. The city lights glowed against the windshield, turning everything into shifting shadows. My nerves rattled every time the car slowed. Near the airport exit, he suddenly stiffened. His hand reached down, not for the radio, not for the air control, but for the lock button. Every door clicked shut. I froze. "Sir?" My voice cracked. "What are you doing?" Still staring straight ahead, he said in a low, urgent tone I will never forget, "Do not get out of this car. Trust me." A chill shot through me so violently I couldn't breathe. My hand hovered over the door handle anyway, pure instinct, pure panic, and he slammed the brakes just long enough to turn and look at me fully. "Zariah," he said, voice trembling with intensity, "if you step out of this car, you'll die." My blood iced. Before I could react, he hit the gas again, pulling us into a dark side lane just shy of the airport drop-off zone. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" He didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the terminal doors, his breathing steady, like he was counting seconds in his mind. Exactly 5 minutes later, a scream of sirens tore through the night. Police cars swarmed the exact spot where we would have stopped. Blue and red lights flashed violently against the windshield. Officers jumped out, guns drawn, rushing toward a figure hiding behind a pillar. A man holding a knife in one hand and a white cloth in the other. A chloroform-soaked cloth. My body convulsed with horror. The driver exhaled sharply, whispering, "Right on time." I stared at the scene, my entire world tilting sideways. That was meant for me? That someone was waiting for me? Yes. How do you know? I choked out. He finally pulled the car away from the chaos, steering us to a darker, quieter corner of the massive parking structure. Then he turned around and looked me directly in the eyes. My name is Booker Hayes. I was your father's head of security years ago. Before he passed, he asked me to keep an eye on you discreetly, in case the wrong people ever tried to get close. My heart thudded against my ribs. My father? I whispered. But why didn't you say anything? He wasn't supposed to, unless there was danger. And tonight, there was danger. I felt the world shrinking and expanding all at once. My breath shook violently. But who would want to hurt me? He looked toward the airport again. Take a look for yourself. Confused, trembling, I followed his gaze. My eyes found the window near the check-in area. And there, clear as daylight, stood Derek, my husband, smiling, talking, with my best friend, Kendra Taylor. 2 rolling suitcases beside them, matching luggage tags, matching smiles vanished the second they spotted Booker's car pulling away. They turned pale, then furious. And just like that, the truth slammed into me, ripping the air from my lungs. They weren't leaving town for business. They were leaving town together. They planned for me to disappear. Booker whispered, "They didn't expect you to survive tonight." My heart broke open, raw and shattered. And for the first time in my life, I realized the man I loved wasn't running away from danger. He was the danger.
I don't remember breathing. I don't remember blinking. I don't even remember my own name for a moment. Just the shattering truth ringing through my skull like a church bell struck too hard. Derek. My husband. My protector. My partner. The man who held me every night, kissed my forehead every morning, brought me flowers when I was sad and prayed with me when I felt lost. Standing beside my best friend Kendra, matching luggage, matching lies, matching betrayal. Booker's voice felt like it was coming from underwater. "Zariah, are you hearing me? You're in danger." I nodded, but nothing in me truly moved. It felt like my soul slid out of my body and was watching from above as my old life burned to ash. Finally, my voice came out, thin and breaking. "Take me home, please." Booker put the car in drive without another word. The airport lights faded behind us, but the image of Derek's face, furious, panicked that I was alive, stayed burned into the front of my mind. He should have looked relieved. He should have been running toward me. He should have been happy that I was unharmed. Instead, he looked like someone whose plan had just been ruined. The ride was silent except for my soft, uncontrollable breaths. I held Derek's wallet tight in my lap, like it was a bomb about to explode. My fingers trembled as I ran them over the leather. Why would he do this? Why tonight? Why me? My voice finally cracked open. "Booker, why would Derek want me gone? I don't understand." Booker sighed, a sound full of years of secrets. "I can't say everything yet. Not until we know how far this goes. But you need to understand, your father was a very wealthy man, Zariah. His legacy, his company, his remaining assets, you are the sole inheritor. Derek knows that." I shook my head. "No! Derek supported me through everything. He always told me he'd help me honor my father's work." Booker shot me a look through the rearview mirror. Soft, sad, knowing. "Derek has been studying you, not loving you. He's been planning this." By the time we pulled near my street, my hands felt cold enough to shatter. Booker slowed the car, scanning the area like a hawk.
Once he seemed satisfied, he finally turned to me. When you go inside, you act like tonight never happened. You must not reveal you know anything. Act like I don't know? After all of this? Yes, he said sharply. Because if Derek suspects you're aware, his next move won't be sloppy. He will move fast, desperate, and that will make him even more dangerous. A tremor ran through me. And Kendra? I whispered. His eyes narrowed. She's deeper in this than you realize. I swallowed hard. So what do I do now? You gather evidence, quietly, and you let me guide you. When the time comes, we'll take them down. I nodded, a broken kind of agreement. Survival mode was something I'd never needed before, but it slid onto me like a second skin. Before he unlocked the doors, Booker reached into the glove compartment and handed me a burner phone. If something happens, call me on this. Never use your regular phone. Something like what? I whispered. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Inside my house, everything felt wrong. The air felt heavy, the shadows too long, the quiet too loud. I set Derek's wallet on the kitchen island and stared at it, wondering how many lies it carried. Finally, I forced myself to open it. His ID, credit cards, receipts from a hotel 3 towns over, dated last week. And then my fingers slid into a hidden pocket. A folded document. I opened it slowly. A plane ticket, one way, for Derek Coleman and Kendra Taylor. 2 seats. 2 matching names. But the name missing was mine. My chest tightened painfully. Next, a second paper. Thick, official, cold as a blade. A life insurance policy, in my name, worth more money than I'd ever seen at once. Filed 2 months ago. Beneficiary, Derek Coleman. My throat closed. He didn't forget the wallet. He wanted me to bring it. He wanted me alone. He wanted me to step out of that rideshare car so the hitman could silence me forever. For a moment, I couldn't breathe at all. I pressed the papers down on the counter, just to keep my hands from shaking them to pieces. The house felt like it was watching me, every shadow a threat. I turned on the lights in every room, double-checked all the locks, and sat down on the couch, clutching a throw pillow like armor. Minutes felt like hours. My chest tightened with each passing second as I waited for Derek to come home. And then I heard it. The front door unlocking. My heart slammed against my ribs. He stepped in casually, yawning loudly, like he truly wanted me to believe he'd just arrived from a long flight. "Z, baby, you awake?" Derek called out, voice smooth as butter, dripping with false concern. Every muscle in me seized. He walked into the living room, suitcase in hand, eyes searching my face. There wasn't a drop of guilt in them, only expectation. "You're up," he said with a warm smile, like he wasn't a monster. "Flight was delayed. Rough night." I forced a smile. "I'm glad you're home safe." His shoulders relaxed in relief. He believed me. He didn't know I'd seen everything. He didn't know I was alive because a stranger turned guardian saved me. He didn't know the clock on his lies was ticking. He came closer, kissed my forehead, wrapped me in his arms, and all I felt was the cold press of betrayal. But I kept breathing, kept smiling, kept pretending. Because pretending was survival now. And I wasn't dying for a man who wasn't even worth my tears. I slept with one eye open,
Derek's arm draped across me like a claim, not a comfort. His breathing was steady, deep, peaceful, as if he hadn't hired someone to erase me from the earth only hours earlier. As if he really had been on a plane, exhausted from travel, not orchestrating my disappearance. Every inhale he took felt like a lie pressed against my skin. Near dawn, he finally rolled away, mumbling something about needing to shower. The second he stepped into the bathroom, I slid out of bed, heart pounding, grabbed the burner phone Booker had given me, and went straight to the living room. I dialed. Booker answered on the first ring. "You good?" His voice was low, hurried. "I don't know," I whispered. "He's home, acting normal." That means he thinks the plan almost worked. You play along until we have enough to destroy him. A beat of silence. "Zariah, did you find anything else in that wallet?" I looked at the table where I'd hidden the papers under a magazine. A plane ticket, life insurance forms in my name, signed. He inhaled sharply. "Then this goes deeper than I hoped." My stomach twisted. "Deeper how?" "I'll explain soon, but for now, you need to gather evidence, real evidence, recordings, documents, anything that ties him and the friend to this." My chest tightened at the mention of the friend. "Kendra, my once sister in spirit, the girl who held my hand after my father's funeral, who laughed in my kitchen, borrowed my clothes, and swore she loved me like family. The same girl standing beside Derek, holding luggage for their happily ever after that required my death. I can't believe she," I whispered. "I know. Betrayal cuts deeper when you never saw it coming, but listen carefully." Booker paused. "They're not done. He will try again." I closed my eyes, breath trembling. "What do I do?" "You fight smart, not loud, not emotional. Smart." Water shut off in the bathroom. Panic shot through me. "I have to go," I breathed. "Text me from the burner when you can, and Zariah, trust your instincts. They've been screaming at you for good reason." We hung up just as Derek opened the bathroom door, towel around his waist, steam trailing behind him. He smiled, warm and triumphant. "You making breakfast? I'm starving." I forced a small smile, nodding. "Of course." My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped the pan. Derek walked up behind me, kissed the back of my neck and murmured, "You're good to me, Z. You know that?" A physical shiver crawled across my skin. I kept stirring. "Always," I said softly. He hummed, satisfied. When he walked away, I steadied myself on the counter. I needed distance, time, a plan. And Booker's words kept circling. Recordings, documents, anything. I had no experience with surveillance, but I did know one thing. Derek was careless when he thought he'd won. So while he showered again after breakfast, I slipped into his office. His briefcase was on his desk, sleek, black, expensive. A symbol of the polished man who fooled me so completely. My fingers trembled as I unlatched it. Inside were folders, receipts, a half-finished letter, and his planner. I dug until I found what I needed, the small microfiber bag that usually held his headphones. I reached into my robe pocket and pulled out the tiny microphone I'd ordered months ago for a work project. I hadn't even opened the box until now. I slipped the mic inside the briefcase lining. When I finished, my pulse was banging so loudly in my ears I thought he'd hear it from the shower.
I stepped back into the hallway just as he opened the bathroom door, steam rushing out around him. "Everything okay?" he asked. I smiled. "Yep, just tidying." He kissed my forehead again. I fought the urge to wipe it off. Later that evening, while Derek went to meet a client, I sat quietly in the living room, burner phone in my hand, trembling. At 9:22 p.m., the first audio file came through. A whispery click, rustling. Then Derek's voice, smooth, irritated. "I told you she bought it," he snapped. Kendra's voice followed, annoyed. "You said that last time, too. And she still messed up the plan." "Messed up?" Derek hissed. "She wasn't supposed to leave the house. The idiot hitman was supposed to grab her at the door, but she called a driver." "Who wasn't even a driver," Kendra cut in. "How were we supposed to know she had some, guardian angel from her daddy?" Derek cursed under his breath. "I just need the insurance money," Kendra said. "Then I can pay the debt and we can start over. You want us out of this mess or not?" "You're the one who promised it would be easy," she shot back. "I didn't sign up for this level of stress." "You signed up for me and for the money, so don't get self-righteous." There was a slam, maybe a hand on a desk. "We'll poison her like we planned," Derek said, cold as ice. "Slip it into her vitamins, quick, clean, looks natural. Then I'll collect the payout." My blood froze. "You better make it fast," Kendra muttered. "The debt collectors called again." I covered my mouth with trembling hands. They weren't guessing. They weren't emotional. They were planning, calculating, organized, prepared to kill me as casually as throwing out trash. A sob clawed at my throat, but I forced it down. I needed to stay clear, sharp, strategic. Before I could think further, the front door rattled. Derek was home. I locked the burner phone in a shoebox, wiped my face, and sat calmly on the couch just as he walked in. He smiled, fake but practiced. "Miss me?" I smiled back, my heart steel. "No," I said softly. "But you're here now." He laughed, oblivious. He had no idea he'd just handed me the weapon I needed. He had no idea his downfall had already begun. And for the first time in days, I felt something new rising inside me, not fear, power.
Derek moved around the house like nothing was wrong, like he wasn't carrying death in his plans, like his hands weren't already stained with the attempt. That night, while he watched TV with his feet propped up, my heart thudding a slow, cold rhythm, I sat across the room pretending to read a book. But my eyes weren't on the pages. They were on him. Every gesture, every careless smile, every self-satisfied sigh. The arrogance of a man who thought I was still blind. "Z," he said suddenly, glancing at me. "You good? You've been quiet today." Quiet. Careful. Strategizing. Breathing so evenly it felt like lying. "I'm tired," I said, forcing a soft smile. "Just need rest." He nodded and went back to scrolling his phone, probably texting Kendra about the next step in my downfall. My skin crawled, but I kept my face neutral because fear was done. Fear was yesterday. Fear was the old version of me he used to control. Tonight, I was studying him like prey. He went to bed early, mumbling about a big meeting in the morning. I listened as his footsteps climbed the stairs, as the bedroom door shut, as the mattress creaked under his weight. Minutes later, his breathing deepened into a steady, sleep-faking rhythm.
He always pretended to fall asleep fast, control thing, but I waited until his breaths settled into the real thing before I moved. Then I crept into his office. The briefcase sat right where he left it. I set my phone down beside it and listened to the recording again, just to anchor myself in what I was about to do. We'll poison her like we planned. I just need the insurance money. You signed up for me. The debt collectors called again. Every word carved into me like a blade turning sharp. I pulled out Derek's planner, sleek black leather with gold pages. Inside were handwritten notes, numbers, dates. My fingers flipped through until something caught my eye. A scribble in the corner of a page. Meet V, Wednesday, 3:15 p.m. Back entrance. No last name, just V. But my gut clenched. The hitman? A handler? A debt collector? I snapped a picture. Then I found a folded sheet tucked into the inner flap, a list of addresses and dollar amounts beside them. My chest tightened. It looked like gambling debts, the kind that weren't handled by polite phone calls. My father's warning echoed in my head, one he'd once told me in a moment of rare fear. Danger isn't loud, baby girl. It whispers. It plans. It smiles while it sharpens the knife. I took photos of that too. Then another sheet fell out, an envelope addressed to Kendra Taylor. I opened it. Inside was a key card to a hotel and a handwritten note. Room 612, same time tomorrow. Bring papers. Papers? What papers? More forged documents? Something tied to me? To the company? To the policy? My hands trembled, but not from fear this time, from fury. Everything I needed was falling into my lap like the universe itself was tired of this man's lies. I took photos of everything, restored it perfectly, and closed the briefcase just as quietly as I opened it. Then I noticed his laptop, and my heart hammered at a dangerous speed. I knew his password. He'd bragged about how clever it was, but it was just the name of his favorite basketball player and his birth year. I typed it in. The screen unlocked. Emails, financial transfers, hidden folders, a draft message to Kendra. Tomorrow we finish this. Vitamins first. If that fails, we go with the house plan. The house plan. I clicked open the attached document. Instructions, a timeline, a list of items needed for a forced signature event, duct tape, zip ties, a location for disposal. My stomach twisted so violently I almost fell to my knees. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't impulsive. This was organized murder. A plan they had reviewed, edited, perfected. My vision blurred with rage, but I uploaded every file to a secure folder on the burner phone. I forwarded backups to another secret email address. Then I placed the laptop exactly where it had been. Before leaving the office, I stared at Derek's stylish, polished desk, the place he'd planned my death. "You planned wrong," I whispered. The next morning, Derek left early. Too early. He kissed my cheek, told me he loved me, and hurried out the door with the speed that told me everything. He was meeting someone about the next step. Probably V, probably the man who would make another attempt. I waited exactly 7 minutes, then grabbed my bag and drove to the one person I could trust. Booker opened his front door before I could knock twice. "You've got more," he said, reading my face. I nodded, stepping inside. We sat at his dining table, mahogany, polished, surrounded by photographs of people I didn't know. Friends, clients, people he'd protected, people he'd almost saved. He gestured for me to lay everything out. I pulled out my phone and showed him every photo, every audio clip, every document. He didn't react outwardly, but I saw something in his eyes, a cold, lethal anger born from loyalty. "Good," he finally muttered. "You're doing exactly what we need." "Booker, why is this happening? Why would Derek go this far?" He leaned back slowly. "Because some men don't want wives. They want assets. Your father's trust is worth millions. Derek thought he could charm you into signing control over.
When that didn't work, he chose the faster route. Tears pressed against the back of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not now. Not for this. Zariah, Booker continued, we have enough to start building a case, but not enough to destroy him outright. We need him and Kendra alone, talking, confident, incriminating themselves deeper. How? I whispered. He leaned forward. We set a trap, a smart one that uses their greed against them. I swallowed. What do I need to do? You, he said, need to play naive one more time. Invite them to dinner. Tell them you miss them. Tell them you want peace. Then let your words shake them apart. A chill slid down my spine. And after dinner? I asked. He smiled, slow, knowing, deadly. Then we get them desperate. I wasn't sure if the tremor in my chest was fear or power, but I nodded anyway. Because Derek wanted me dead, and now I wanted him exposed. By the time I drove home from Booker's house, my heart felt like it was pounding inside a cage. The plan he laid out kept replaying in my head, each detail sharp as broken glass. I was supposed to invite Derek and Kendra into my home, into my space, and pretend like nothing fractured inside me. Pretend I didn't know about the insurance policy. Pretend I didn't hear their voices plotting my death. Pretend I didn't realize the man I married would rather bury me than divorce me. Pretend. 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 Every mile closer to home felt heavier. I sat in the driveway for 2 full minutes, breathing shallowly, fingers gripping the steering wheel. My porch light flickered, the bulb Derek always promised to change, but never did. That stupid flickering glow used to annoy me. Now it looked like a warning signal. When I walked inside, the first thing I noticed was Derek's cologne. It lingered in the air, strong and assertive, trying to claim the space. A scent that once comforted me now made my stomach turn. Z, he called from the living room. His voice, a soft baritone that used to make me melt, now scraped against my nerves. I wiped my face quickly and walked in, careful to steady my breathing. He looked up from his laptop, smiling like nothing was broken, like he wasn't a murderer in disguise, like he wasn't planning which method of killing me would be most convenient. "Where you been?" he asked casually, stretching his arms. "I woke up and you were gone." I forced a shrug. "Went for a drive, needed fresh air." He nodded as if that was simple and acceptable, as if I wasn't supposed to be glued to his side like a good little wife, as if he wasn't calculating my every move. Cool, he said, closing the laptop. "Are you hungry? I was thinking we could order something." His casualness was almost deranged. "I actually had an idea," I said softly, stepping forward. "I was thinking of having dinner with you and Kendra tomorrow night." Silence. His smile twitched just slightly, barely noticeable, but I saw it, the stutter in his confidence. The moment his mind began calculating, "Dinner with Kendra?" I nodded gently. "Yes, I think it's time the 3 of us talked, cleared the air. We've all been a little off lately." Off, as if attempting murder was a mood swing. His eyes scanned my face, searching for something, a crack, a clue, a trap. But I had practiced my expression in the car mirror, soft, tired, kind. The old Soraya. He exhaled slowly. "Yeah, babe, that sounds nice. I'll tell her." A tiny flicker of triumph warmed my chest, but outwardly I kept my posture loose, trusting.
Good. I miss how things used to be. His smile softened, landing exactly where I wanted it. He needed to believe I was weakening, not sharpening. He stood and pulled me into his arms. I held my breath as he kissed my forehead. His voice vibrated through me like cold steel. The next day was a blur of silent preparation. I cleaned the house, but not to make it inviting, to give no hint of hidden equipment. I placed the small voice recorder under the dining table, securing it with double-sided tape. I tucked the backup recorder behind a picture frame near the bar cart. And I slipped my phone into one of the floral arrangements where it could record video without detection. Every move felt like threading a needle while walking through fire. Booker called twice, reminding me to stay calm, stay quiet, stay believable. He said this dinner wasn't to confront them. It was to destabilize them. Fear makes liars sloppy. Sloppy gets them caught. I believed him. But believing didn't make this easier. When the doorbell rang at exactly 7:02 p.m., my heart slammed so hard it echoed in my teeth. I smoothed my dress, a soft lavender wrap dress Derek always liked, and opened the door. Kendra stood there, flawless as ever, perfect curls, flawless makeup, designer heels, but under all that glamour was a trembling edge she couldn't hide. "Hey girl," she said, smiling too wide. "You look beautiful." "You too," I whispered. Her eyes flicked behind me, scanning the room like she expected police to jump out from behind the furniture. Good. Let paranoia do its job. Derek entered right behind her, dress shirt crisp, smile warm, a picture of a loving husband. "A beautiful night for a little reunion," he said, kissing my cheek. My skin crawled. We gathered around the table. Candles lit, wine poured, music soft. It could have been any dinner from our old life, except everything was poisoned now, emotionally, not chemically. I made small talk, casual in a way that made both of them shift. They kept glancing at each other, silently communicating, their eyelids twitching, breath uneven. Finally, Derek laughed nervously. "Z, you're different tonight. Calm." "I just had a dream," I said simply, taking a sip of wine. A strange one. Kendra stiffened. "A dream?" I nodded. "Want to hear it?" They didn't answer. I dreamt I was standing at an airport. It was dark and I was alone. Someone tried to grab me, but I woke up before they could. Derek's fork clattered against the plate. I continued, steady. Then I dreamt someone tried to slip something into my vitamins, something that looked harmless. Kendra went pale. And then, I whispered, my voice like silk draped over a blade. I dreamt I died. And my husband got a very large payout. The room froze. Dead silent. Not even the candle flame dared to move. Derek's breathing hitched. Kendra's eyes widened until they glistened with panic. My heart beat like a war drum, but I kept my face serene. And dreams are funny things. They make you think about the future, about safety, about who you can trust. I set my fork down with a soft click. So I decided to make one small change to my will. Kendra's hand jerked.
Derek swallowed hard. If anything happens to me, everything I own goes straight to charity. Every single dollar. Their faces drained of every drop of color. The plan they depended on, the reason they were sitting here pretending to love me, gone. Shattered, dead. Derek's jaw twitched. Kendra looked like she forgot how to breathe. I smiled softly. Isn't that comforting? I whispered. The room cracked under the weight of their terror. And that's when I knew I had them right where I needed them.
Derek didn't breathe for a full 3 seconds. I watched the muscles in his jaw twitch, tiny spasms that only happened when he was cornered. Kendra blinked too fast, her perfect lashes fluttering like trapped moths. The candle flame swayed ever so slightly, as if the air itself knew something had shifted. The dinner table had become an interrogation room, and the guilty sat across from me. I kept my posture soft, calm, almost fragile, because fear disarms predators, but composure terrifies them. So, I said lightly, swirling my wine, what's new with the two of you? They stared, frozen. Derek opened his mouth, then closed it, then tried again. Z, why did you change your will? Because of my dream, I said with a gentle smile. It just felt right. You didn't tell me, he said, eyes narrowing. I didn't ask, I replied softly. Kendra shifted in her seat, her fingers trembling around her glass. Her gaze darted between me and Derek like she was waiting for him to lead. But the truth was Derek didn't know what to do. My calmness had thrown gasoline on his panic. Finally, Kendra spoke. Ziraya girl, that's a big decision. Why would you leave everything to charity? What about your husband, your family? I tilted my head. Oh, I'm just giving the universe less incentive to take me early. The sentence landed like a brick. Derek's hand clenched under the table. I heard the faint thud of his knuckles hitting the wood. Good. Let him sweat. I stood to refill my glass, giving them my back deliberately, because predators panic when they think prey isn't afraid anymore. When I returned, both of them were whispering to each other sharply, eyes wide. I sat down gently. Everything okay? You both look nervous. Derek jolted. We're fine, just surprised. By my dream? By you, he said, voice tightening. Well, you know what they say, dreams reveal the truth. Kendra's hand trembled so badly she set her glass down. The recorder beneath the table caught every sound. Dinner ended with a silence so thick it could have been sliced. Kendra left in a hurry, mumbling something about an early meeting. Derek forced a smile as he kissed my cheek, but his eyes were sharp, calculating, cold. The moment the door shut behind her, Derek rounded on me. What was that? He demanded. I blinked innocently. What was what? The dream, the will, that, he gestured wildly. That wasn't normal, Ziraya. I touched his arm lightly. Maybe you're just stressed? I didn't mean to worry you. He searched my face again, trying to read me, trying to see if I had seen him. But my eyes were soft, my expression gentle, my mask perfect. Let's go to bed, I said lightly. We both need rest. His suspicion flickered, then settled. He nodded. When Derek finally fell asleep, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My body was still, but my mind was a storm. Booker was right. Fear had made them sloppy. And sloppy was dangerous for them, but powerful for me. At 2:13 a.m., Derek rolled away and began snoring softly. I slipped out of bed and tiptoed downstairs. My hands trembled as I retrieved the burner phone from beneath the pantry shelf and pressed send on the audio files from dinner. Seconds later, Booker replied, "You did the right thing." But I couldn't.
not after what came next. At 3:04 a.m., I heard footsteps outside the house. Slow, heavy, dragging. I froze. Shadows moved under the curtain. I held my breath and peered through the narrow opening. 3 men, hooded, broad. One carried something long, wrapped in cloth. My blood turned to ice. They weren't coming for valuables. They weren't burglars. They were here for me. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. I stepped back slowly, silently, and grabbed the burner phone. I texted Booker. His response came in 5 seconds. Lock your doors. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I moved. I tiptoed through the kitchen, unlocked the back door, and slipped into the night like a shadow. My bare feet hit the cold concrete. I pulled my robe tighter and ran, past the fence, through the alley, behind the neighbor's garage. My breath fogged the air as I crouched behind a trash can, shaking uncontrollably. Seconds later, I heard them break in. Glass shattering, heavy footsteps. A deep voice snarling, "Check upstairs, she has to be here." I covered my mouth. My tears dripped silently down my chin. They were here to kidnap me, force me, kill me. And Derek was upstairs pretending to sleep. Of course he was. He wasn't the type to get his hands dirty, not when he could have hired thugs to do the work. I stayed crouched until Booker's truck pulled into the alley, headlights off, engine low. He opened the passenger door. "Get in." I ran to him, climbed in, and he drove away without a word. We parked 2 blocks away. My hand shook so badly I could barely hold the seatbelt. "I know he knows," I whispered. "He knows the plan failed. He sent people tonight." "He's desperate," Booker said quietly, "and desperate people make mistakes. He thinks you're asleep in the house right now. He thinks you're unprotected." My breaths came fast, shallow. "What do we do?" Booker turned to me, eyes sharp and focused. "We are going to finish this. We'll take everything from him. His freedom, his money, his lies." "How?" I asked, voice breaking. "You," he said, "are going to disappear for 24 hours. My heart stuttered. "Disappear?" He nodded. "Let them think their plan worked." I blinked, understanding beginning to dawn. "And while they celebrate," he continued, "we'll lead them straight into a trap." I stared at him. My fear slowly sharpened into something else, something alive, something powerful, something I had never felt before. "Tell me what to do," I whispered. Booker smiled. "Now we begin your counter-attack." Booker didn't drive me to a hotel or a safe house or anywhere that looked like the quiet, hidden corners of witness protection. Instead, he pulled into a long, empty field on the outside of town, somewhere between farmland and forgotten land. A scattered line of trees shielded us from the road. The air was sharp, cold, quiet enough that I could hear my heartbeat. "Why here?" I whispered, hugging myself. "Because no one would think to look for you," Booker said, turning off the engine. "And because we don't have much time." He reached behind the seat and pulled out a duffel bag. Inside was something I hadn't expected. Practical survival items. A thick blanket, bottled water, protein bars, a battery-powered lantern, and a small recording device with a green LED light. "This isn't hiding," he said firmly. "This is preparation." "For what?" My voice cracked. "For the move that will end all of this." He leaned toward me, adjusting the lantern so the soft light lit his face. Lines of worry dug deep around his mouth, but his eyes were sharp with purpose. "Derek knows the will changed. He knows the airport plan failed. He knows tonight's break-in failed. The moment you don't answer your phone tomorrow morning, he'll assume they succeeded somewhere else." So I let him think I'm dead? My stomach twisted violently. "No, you let him think you're gone, missing, unreachable.
and you let that paranoia push him into doing exactly what we need him to do. I swallowed hard. What's that? Go to where he thinks your money is. Booker's tone was steady. Greed is predictable. The words landed in my chest like puzzle pieces clicking into place. Derek's debts, his desperation, his need for a payout. My father's inheritance, I whispered. And that, Booker said, is how we get them to expose everything. I stared at him, breath shaking. What do I do? You stay off the grid until I call. No phone, no lights, no movement near town. I'll handle the rest. You will be safe. I looked around the empty field, the trees barely swaying with the winter wind. Safe wasn't the word that came to mind, but neither was weak or fragile or victim. Something in me clicked. The moment a woman stops fearing the monster and starts hunting the truth. Booker set the duffel on my lap. You're stronger than you think. I swallowed a shaky breath. I don't feel strong. That's how you know you are, he said quietly. The night stretched on. Cold seeped into my bones, but adrenaline kept me from collapsing. Every crack of the trees, every rustle of the wind made my nerves jolt. But I stayed hidden. At 6:17 a.m., Booker returned. He didn't knock on the window or call my name. He just opened the passenger door with a deliberate calm that made me breathe again. It's time, he said. Time for what? The next step. I climbed back into the truck, heart pounding. Booker handed me his phone, screen open to an audio file. Your recording from the dinner picked up something interesting, he said. He pressed play. A faint whisper. Kendra's voice, strained, terrified. Derek, she knows something is off. She's acting weird, that dream. Then Derek's voice, tight and furious. Calm down. She doesn't know anything. Tonight was a fluke. We'll try again. I don't care how. Vitamins, the house. I'm not losing everything because she gets suspicious. My stomach turned. Then Kendra again, snapping. We have to get the money. We have to. If we don't, your debt becomes my problem too. The recording ended. Booker nodded at the phone. That's enough to make them desperate. We push them a little further. Then we lock the trap. How? He smirked, a strategist revealing the final move. We give them bait. A small piece of information. Something irresistible. I frowned. Like what? Like hidden money you kept secret from Derek. A location. A stash. Something valuable enough for them to run to. Something that requires all of them in one place. My heart kicked wildly. A warehouse. Exactly. I realized instantly what he meant. A controlled environment, with cameras, with evidence, with police waiting. He reached into the glove box and pulled out a printed notebook page. It looked aged, like something my father could have written. My breath caught as he slid it to me. What's this? Your handwriting, he said, copied from notes you've posted online. A letter Derek will believe you wrote months ago. My eyes scanned the page. It was a ledger, numbers, dates, a note that said, Dad's emergency funds, warehouse off Millington Road, safe code 612. The number made me freeze. 612? I whispered, like the hotel room, Kendra and Derek's place. Exactly. They won't doubt it. They'll see it as fate. They'll follow it. My chest tightened. Then what do I do? You leave it somewhere Derek will find it, he said. Somewhere that makes it look like you were hiding it. Then you stay hidden while they take the bait. How do I stay hidden? Booker started the engine. By not going home. Because while you're gone, he paused, watching my reaction. The thugs will come back. Ice rippled through me. What? Booker? Calm down, he said. They'll come because Derek will send them again. And when they break in, he looked straight ahead, jaw firm. I'll be waiting. My breath caught. Booker, no. This is what your father asked of me, he said quietly. Protect you. End the threat. Tonight, I keep my promise. I covered my face, tears spilling hot down my cheeks. I don't want anyone getting hurt because of me. Booker shook his head. The only danger in this story came from Derek and Kendra, not you. He drove us to a small, secluded cabin, a place so quiet it felt like the world paused around it. This is where you'll stay, he said. No lights, no phone, no movement near town. You wait for my signal. My chest tightened. What if something goes wrong? He gave me a steady, unbreakable look. Nothing will go wrong. I nodded, breath shaking. Before I stepped out of the truck, he handed me one last item, a small remote. If you hear anything dangerous, he said, press this. I'll come immediately. My throat closed. Be careful, I whispered. You too. Now go. I stepped into the cabin, the door closing behind me with a heavy finality. For the next 24 hours, I would be a ghost, and by the time I returned, so would Derek's freedom.
Booker eased himself down into the cabin's only armchair, wincing as he lowered his bruised body. I rushed to grab a water bottle and handed it to him, kneeling beside him like a daughter would beside a wounded father. Booker, please tell me what happened, I whispered. He took a long sip and pressed the cold bottle to his swollen cheek. A dark purple bruise was forming under his left eye, and a thin cut ran along his jawline. Even injured, he looked steady, like a man who knew pain intimately and never feared it. They put up a fight, he said quietly. Especially Derek. He's not as calm in handcuffs as he is when he's planning murder. I swallowed, hands trembling. Did he hurt you? Booker shook his head. Nothing I can't handle. The officers got there in time. But before I tell you the rest, there's something you need to know. His tone shifted, deeper, heavier, carrying a kind of weight that made my stomach twist. What is it? I asked softly. He stared at me for a long moment, something unspoken flickering in his eyes, something like regret, or something like a truth he'd carried for too long. Your father, he said finally, didn't just ask me to protect you. My breath caught. Booker looked down at his hands and pressed the cold bottle to his swollen cheek. A dark purple bruise was forming under his left eye, and a thin cut ran along his jawline. Even injured, he looked steady, like a man who knew pain intimately and never feared it. He made me promise him something, a promise I never wanted to keep. My pulse quickened. What kind of promise? He took another slow breath and met my eyes, pain swimming in his. To watch Derek, to watch whoever you chose to love. I blinked. What? Why? Because your father knew what kind of men are drawn to women with inheritance, with kind hearts, with blind trust. Your father loved you, Zariah. He wanted to be sure no one ever used you, no one ever hurt you. My breath stuttered. Booker, what are you saying? He hesitated, then spoke the truth that hit harder than any blow Derek could deliver. Your father didn't trust Derek, not from the beginning. The room tilted slightly. What? But they only met a few times. And that was enough, Booker said. He watched the way Derek looked at your jewelry, your car, the house, He saw hunger in his eyes. My chest tightened painfully. Why didn't he tell me? Because he didn't want to control your heart, Booker said gently. He wanted to protect it. So he asked me to stay near, quietly, discreetly, watching for danger, not interfering unless necessary. Tears filled my eyes. He thought Derek would hurt me even back then? Booker's silence was answer enough. I covered my mouth, trying to keep the sob in, but it slipped out anyway, sharp and broken. Why didn't I see it? Because you loved him, Booker said softly, and love makes even the smartest woman blind. I sank onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. I felt small, foolish, betrayed not just by Derek and Kendra, but by myself. The version of me who ignored red flags, who trusted so easily, who loved without caution. Booker let me cry for a moment before he continued. But that's not the only truth I need to tell you. I looked up, eyes swollen. What else? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Derek wasn't working alone, not just with Kendra. My breath caught in my throat. What do you mean? There's someone else behind this, someone who helped him with forged documents, someone who gave him information about your father's accounts, someone who coached him on loopholes. A chill ran through my spine. Who? Booker's jaw tightened. A man named Victor Hayes. I don't know him. No, Booker said softly, but he knows you. He paused, watching my reaction before speaking the name that shattered something inside me. He was one of your father's junior accountants, fired for stealing. But he blamed your father for ruining his career, and he's been trying to get access to your inheritance ever since. I stared at him in shock. What does that have to do with Derek? I whispered. Derek met him 2 years ago. Victor played the role of a financial advisor who just wanted to help, but he was grooming Derek, feeding him lies, teaching him how to get what he wanted. My blood ran cold. He told Derek how much he'd gain if you were out of the picture. He encouraged the insurance policy, helped forge signatures, even introduced Derek to the kind of men who take money for violence. My stomach twisted. So Derek wasn't just greedy, he was manipulated? Yes, manipulated, but willing, always willing. His gaze hardened. Victor didn't invent the monster, he just gave it permission. I hugged myself, sudden nausea washing over me. So Victor is still out there? Booker nodded slowly. He fled before the arrests. The police are looking for him, but for now, he's gone. The cabin swayed around me. The darkness felt thicker now. But listen closely, Booker said gently. You are safe. Derek is in custody, Kendra too. The thugs are being processed. Their statements already contradict each other. They're all turning on each other. It won't take long for them to tell the whole truth. I swallowed hard. And what did Derek say when they arrested him? Booker exhaled. He screamed your name, blamed you for trapping him, said you tricked him, said you ruined his life. A tear slipped down my cheek. Of course he did. Booker's gaze softened. But it didn't matter. The evidence was overwhelming. The police saw everything at the warehouse, the cameras, the documents, the recordings you helped gather. I shook my head slowly. I didn't do it alone. No, but you did more than you know. Then his voice dropped to a softer register, gentle but firm. Zariah, you need to understand something important. I lifted my gaze. You didn't survive this by accident. You survived because you listened to your instincts,
because you acted, because you refused to be the victim they wanted you to be. The words sank into me slowly, painfully, beautifully. You're your father's daughter, he finished, and he'd be proud. A sob rose in my throat, full, deep, cleansing. I didn't hold it back this time. Booker let me cry for a moment before he took the phone from my trembling hands and checked a message that had just come through. He read it silently. His eyes darkened. "What is it?" I whispered. He looked up slowly, and his expression sent a chill down my spine. "The police want us to come in. Now," he said. "Why?" My heart lurched. He hesitated. "They found something in Derek's car." I froze. "What did they find?" My voice shook. He met my eyes, and his expression sent a chill down my spine. "Something that changes everything." Booker eased himself down into the cabin's only armchair, wincing as he lowered his bruised body. I rushed to grab a water bottle and handed it to him, kneeling beside him like a daughter would beside a wounded father. "Booker, please tell me what happened," I whispered. He took a long sip and pressed the cold bottle to his swollen cheek. A dark purple bruise was forming under his left eye, and a thin cut ran along his jawline. Even injured, he looked steady, like a man who knew pain intimately and never feared it. "They put up a fight," he said quietly. "Especially Derek. He's not as calm in handcuffs as he is when he's planning murder." I swallowed, hands trembling. "Did he hurt you?" Booker shook his head. "Nothing I can't handle. The officers got there in time. But before I tell you the rest, there's something you need to know." His tone shifted, deeper, heavier, carrying a kind of weight that made my stomach twist. "What is it?" I asked softly. He stared at me for a long moment, something unspoken flickering in his eyes, something like regret, or something like a truth he'd carried for too long. "Your father," he said finally, "didn't just ask me to protect you." My breath caught. Booker looked down at his hands and pressed the cold bottle to his swollen cheek. A dark purple bruise was forming under his left eye, and a thin cut ran along his jawline. Even injured, he looked steady, like a man who knew pain intimately and never feared it. He made me promise him something, a promise I never wanted to keep. My pulse quickened. "What kind of promise?" He took another slow breath and met my eyes, pain swimming in his. "To watch Derek, to watch whoever you chose to love." I blinked. "What? Why?" "Because your father knew what kind of men are drawn to women with inheritance, with kind hearts, with blind trust. Your father loved you, Zariah. He wanted to be sure no one ever used you, no one ever hurt you." My breath stuttered. "Booker, what are you saying?" He hesitated, then spoke the truth that hit harder than any blow Derek could deliver. "Your father didn't trust Derek, not from the beginning." The room tilted slightly. "What? But they only met a few times." "And that was enough," Booker said. He watched the way Derek looked at your jewelry, your car, the house. He saw hunger in his eyes. My chest tightened painfully. "Why didn't he tell me?" "Because he didn't want to control your heart," Booker said gently. "He wanted to protect it. So he asked me to stay near, quietly, discreetly, watching for danger, not interfering unless necessary." Tears filled my eyes. "He thought Derek would hurt me even back then?" Booker's silence was answer enough. I covered my mouth, trying to keep the sob in, but it slipped out anyway, sharp and broken.
Why didn't I see it?
Because you loved him, Booker said softly, and love makes even the smartest woman blind. I sank onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. I felt small, foolish, betrayed not just by Derek and Kendra, but by myself. The version of me who ignored red flags, who trusted so easily, who loved without caution. Booker let me cry for a moment before he continued. But that's not the only truth I need to tell you. I looked up, eyes swollen. What else? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Derek wasn't working alone, not just with Kendra. My breath caught in my throat. What do you mean? There's someone else behind this, someone who helped him with forged documents, someone who gave him information about your father's accounts, someone who coached him on loopholes. A chill ran through my spine. Who? Booker's jaw tightened. A man named Victor Hayes. I don't know him. No, Booker said softly, but he knows you. He paused, watching my reaction before speaking the name that shattered something inside me. He was one of your father's junior accountants, fired for stealing. But he blamed your father for ruining his career, and he's been trying to get access to your inheritance ever since. I stared at him in shock. What does that have to do with Derek? I whispered. Derek met him 2 years ago. Victor played the role of a financial advisor who just wanted to help, but he was grooming Derek, feeding him lies, teaching him how to get what he wanted. My blood ran cold. He told Derek how much he'd gain if you were out of the picture. He encouraged the insurance policy, helped forge signatures, even introduced Derek to the kind of men who take money for violence. My stomach twisted. So Derek wasn't just greedy, he was manipulated? Yes, manipulated, but willing, always willing. His gaze hardened. Victor didn't invent the monster, he just gave it permission. I hugged myself, sudden nausea washing over me. So Victor is still out there? Booker nodded slowly. He fled before the arrests. The police are looking for him, but for now, he's gone. The cabin swayed around me. The darkness felt thicker now. But listen closely, Booker said gently. You are safe. Derek is in custody, Kendra too. The thugs are being processed. Their statements already contradict each other. They're all turning on each other. It won't take long for them to tell the whole truth. I swallowed hard. And what did Derek say when they arrested him? Booker exhaled. He screamed your name, blamed you for trapping him, said you tricked him, said you ruined his life. A tear slipped down my cheek. Of course he did. Booker's gaze softened. But it didn't matter. The evidence was overwhelming. The police saw everything at the warehouse, the cameras, the documents, the recordings you helped gather. I shook my head slowly. I didn't do it alone. No, but you did more than you know. Then his voice dropped to a softer register, gentle but firm. Zariah, you need to understand something important. I lifted my gaze. You didn't survive this by accident. You survived because you listened to your instincts, because you acted, because you refused to be the victim they wanted you to be. The words sank into me slowly, painfully, beautifully. You're your father's daughter, he finished, and he'd be proud. A sob rose in my throat, full, deep, cleansing. I didn't hold it back this time. Booker let me cry for a moment before he took the phone from my trembling hands and checked a message that had just come through. He read it silently. His eyes darkened. What is it? I whispered. He looked up slowly,
and his expression sent a chill down my spine. "The police want us to come in. Now," he said. "Why?" My heart lurched. He hesitated. "They found something in Derek's car." I froze. "What did they find?" My voice shook. He met my eyes, and his expression sent a chill down my spine. "Something that changes everything."
The ride to the police station felt longer than any road I'd ever traveled. Booker drove with cautious precision, his bruised hands gripping the wheel, his jaw clenched in a way that made my chest tighten. I didn't ask him again what they found. I didn't have the strength. Whatever it was, whatever could shake a man like Booker, it wasn't small. The station buzzed with quiet chaos when we arrived. Officers moved quickly through hallways, voices low but tense. Someone guided us to a private room, a small space with one table, 2 chairs, and fluorescent lights humming overhead. Waiting inside was Detective Alana Rhodes. She stood as we entered, tall, deep-skinned woman with sharp eyes and braids pulled into a tight bun. Her posture radiated authority. "Ms. Langston," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming." My voice cracked. "What did you find?" Detective Rhodes slid a thin evidence folder across the table, but didn't open it. Instead, she looked directly at me, her gaze softening just slightly. "Before I show you, I need you to understand, none of this is your fault." A tremor ran through my spine. Booker shifted beside me. "Detective, just say it." She exhaled slowly, opened the folder, and pushed a photo toward me. A Polaroid. Old. Edges worn. Colors faded. My stomach dropped. In the photo, a little girl with thick braids smiled up at the camera, missing her 2 front teeth. She wore a pink dress and held a stuffed bear. It was me. Maybe 5 or 6 years old. Beside me in the photo was Victor Hayes. But that wasn't the part that nearly made me stop breathing. Behind us, standing with a hand on my shoulder, was Derek. Not adult Derek, younger Derek, teenage Derek, but unmistakable. My vision blurred. No, that's not possible. I met Derek in college. I'd never. Booker cursed under his breath, something rare and violent. Detective Rhodes spoke gently. "The timestamp on the back is 20 years old." I shook my head harder. "No, I don't remember this. I've never..." Detective Rhodes turned another page. It was a report. Notes. Sketches. Details. "Derek knew your father, not briefly, not casually. He visited your childhood home." My jaw locked. This photo was found hidden inside a compartment in Derek's car, along with a diary page written by Victor Hayes. She slid the page toward me. The handwriting was messy, frantic. "She's the only one left. The girl, the inheritance. We just have to wait until she's old enough for Coleman to get close." My heart cracked open. No, I don't. This can't be real. But Detective Rhodes wasn't done. "There's more." She pulled out another sheet. It was a kindergarten roster. My name, my teacher's name, my father's signature, and Derek's, signed as a volunteer helper. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. My body swayed, and Booker grabbed my arm to steady me. "He's been watching me since I was a child?" I choked. "Planning this for decades?" Detective Rhodes nodded slowly. "We believe Victor planted the idea early. Your father fired Victor when you were very young. Victor wanted revenge. Derek was susceptible. They crossed paths, and together they began planning a long-term manipulation." My voice barely existed. "So my marriage, my entire relationship was planned?" Detective Rhodes didn't sugarcoat. It was orchestrated, step by step.
I collapsed into the chair as a sob tore out of me. Booker placed the steady hand on my shoulder, but his touch couldn't keep me from shaking. Years of memories, every kiss, every promise, every "I love you," all of it was a lie, crafted by a man who had seen me when I still wore tiny shoes and colorful barrettes. All of it was a plan, a grooming, a long con. I felt like I was drowning. Detective Rhodes continued, voice low. "We also found letters between Victor and Derek, discussing your father's business, discussing the trust, discussing ways to position Derek in your life once you reached adulthood." My chest tightened violently. So that means Derek targeted me as a child? Yes, that's exactly what it means. I covered my face with shaking hands. Booker rubbed my back gently. "You didn't deserve this. None of it." I cried harder. He had seen me as an opportunity before I even knew what opportunity was. He came into my childhood classroom. He stood beside me in that picture like a snake waiting to grow fangs. I wasn't just betrayed by my husband. I had been hunted by him. Detective Rhodes let me cry before continuing. "There's more you should see, Ms. Langston, but we'll go at your pace." I shook my head. "Show me everything. All of it." She nodded and opened another folder. Inside were screenshots, messages between Derek and Victor from years back. "She's in college now, making friends. Don't rush. Build trust. Make her rely on you. Her father's death made her vulnerable. This is your chance. Get close, then get control." I choked on my breath. He dated me because my father died? Detective Rhodes nodded sadly. "Yes," Booker whispered. "I'm sorry, baby girl." My tears fell uncontrollably. I remembered how Derek comforted me after the funeral, how he brought meals, how he drove me to the cemetery every Sunday, and how he whispered, "I'll protect you." He didn't protect me. He shepherded me toward a future where he could inherit everything I worked for. I trembled as Detective Rhodes spoke again. "There's something else we found in Derek's car, something personal." I lifted my head weakly. "It's a box, filled with items from your childhood." My breath hitched. "What items?" "A lock of your hair," she said softly. "Birthday invitations, a picture you drew in kindergarten, a bead bracelet, and several candid photos taken when you were young." I felt sick. "He kept them," I whispered. "All this time?" Detective Rhodes' expression softened. "That's why I said, this isn't your fault. Derek didn't choose you. He targeted you." Silence swallowed the room. Then Booker spoke, his voice harder than steel. "Where is he now?" "In holding," Detective Rhodes replied. "He's already tried blaming Victor, Kendra, and the thugs, but we have evidence of planning that goes back decades." Booker turned to me. "You need to stay somewhere safe tonight." Detective Rhodes nodded. "We'll place officers outside whatever home you choose, and Mr. Hayes, we may need your statement as well." Booker nodded. Detective Rhodes closed the file. "There's one last thing." My stomach twisted. "What now?" She slid over a USB drive. "This contains the final recording from the warehouse. Derek said something before the officers reached him." My throat tightened. "What did he say?" "It's better if you hear it." My hands trembled as I reached for the drive. Detective Rhodes stood. "I'll leave you with a private room. When you're ready, we'll talk next steps." She left, closing the door behind me. Booker handed me his laptop silently. "Play it," he said. My fingers hovered over the touchpad. My heart pounded, and with a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff, I pressed play. Derek's voice filled the room. Cold. Unhinged. Loud. "You think she beat me? You think she won? I made her. I raised her. She's mine. This was always the plan." I froze, but the recording wasn't done. "You tell her this? Tell her I'm not finished.
tell her I'll never be done, the recording ended. The air went still. My blood ran cold. Even in chains, even defeated, Derek still believed he owned me. This was not over. Not yet.
The moment Derek's final words faded from the laptop speaker, a coldness swept through me so deep it felt inherited, like my bones remembered danger before my mind could process it. Booker's hand gripped mine tightly, not to comfort me, but to anchor me before I floated into panic. "He's lying," Booker whispered. "Men like him always bark when they've lost their bite." But the tremor in his jaw betrayed something else, concern he didn't want me to see. I replayed the final line in my head. "Tell her I'm not finished. Tell her I'll never be done." It echoed, clawing my chest. Not because he could hurt me, Derek was caged like an animal, but because he believed I still belonged to him. That twisted sense of ownership didn't vanish with a pair of handcuffs. Booker closed the laptop. Enough of him. He can scream behind those bars until his throat bleeds. He won't touch you again. I nodded, but my body was still trembling. Booker? How could he say something like that after everything? Booker met my eyes. Because he's delusional. Because men like Derek turn their failures into fantasies to survive prison. He didn't just lose you. He lost the future he shaped his life around. "I was never his future," I whispered. "To him, you were an investment, and you took it back." Detective Rhodes returned, her expression softer than before. "Miss Langston, we've arranged for an officer to escort you wherever you choose to stay for the night. Do you have a preference?" I shook my head. "I don't know. I can't go home, not after the break-ins." "You're right," she said. "It's not safe yet. We'll have forensics on it tomorrow." Booker straightened. "She'll stay with me." Detective Rhodes nodded once, without question. Booker carried authority that didn't need badges. Before we left the room, Detective Rhodes placed a gentle hand on my arm. "Let me be honest with you. You handled yourself with more strength than most people ever find. You gathered evidence. You stayed smart. You stayed alive. You should be proud." I blinked rapidly as tears swelled again. "I don't feel proud. I feel broken." That's what survival feels like at first. But broken things can be rebuilt into something even stronger. Her words stayed with me as we walked through the station and into the cold night. The ride to Booker's home was silent. Exhaustion weighed on me like sandbags tied to my limbs. My head leaned against a window, watching the city blur past, streetlights smearing into streaks of gold, cars ghosting by in shadows. When we pulled into his driveway, the house looked warm, a soft porch light glowing against the night. Booker guided me inside. "Sit," he said. "You need food." "I'm not hungry." "You need food anyway." He warmed soup, plated crackers, poured tea. I stared at the steam rising from the bowl, unable to lift the spoon. Booker didn't push. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "There's something else you need to see." I tensed. "Booker, I can't." "This one will help you," he said firmly. He went to his office and returned with a small metal tin, old, scratched, familiar somehow. When he set it in front of me, my breath caught. It was my father's tin, the one he used to keep letters in, the one he kept locked away. I hadn't seen it since... Where did you... I whispered. "Your father gave this to me for safekeeping. He told me to give it to you only when you were in danger, when you needed strength, when you needed truth." My hand shook as I unclasped the tin. Inside, neatly folded, were letters. My father's handwriting curved across the paper in soft, familiar strokes.
I pulled the first letter out. My Zariah, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. And I'm sorry. I hope you never need these words, but if you do, know this. You are stronger than the world believes, stronger than you believe, and your heart, your kind, enormous heart, will be the thing that saves you. And maybe the thing someone tries to exploit. A tear slid down my cheek. I worry about people drawn to your kindness. Wolves are always drawn to the warmest light. And someone tries to dim yours, know this. You do not owe them access to you. Not love, not forgiveness, not anything. Another tear fell. Then another. If a man someday says he loves you, but makes you feel small, afraid, or dependent, leave. Do not look back. You are not meant for cages. You are meant for the world. My throat tightened painfully. If you are reading this, then someone has tried to cage you. Break free, my girl. Break free and run toward a life where your light is not a target, but a gift. I covered my mouth, sobbing into my hands. Booker moved closer. Everything your father feared happened, but everything he believed about you also came true. You didn't break. I shook my head. But I almost... No, he said firmly. You almost believed lies, but you never let them define you. He took the letter from my trembling hands and placed it back in the tin. Your father prepared you for this without you even knowing it, and now you're ready for the final step. I wiped my eyes. What step? Facing Derek in court. My breath caught. I can't. Yes, you can, and you will. Not because he deserves your presence, but because you deserve closure. I leaned back into the couch, chest tight. I terrify him. He should, Booker said softly, but fear won't guide you now. Truth will. I closed my eyes. Booker, what if he still tries to control the narrative? What if he twists things? What if... He won't. Booker cut in. Not this time. Because the evidence is stronger than his lies. And because you, he pointed at me, are stronger than he ever expected. Silence settled between us. Zariah, what Derek did was monstrous. But what you did, you outsmarted a man who has been planning your downfall since he was practically a child himself. You stopped generational evil. You ended a cycle built before you even knew it existed. I breathed slowly, deeply. He doesn't own you. Booker whispered. I know. I whispered back. No, Booker said, leaning forward. Say it. My lips trembled. He doesn't own me. Louder. He doesn't own me. From the chest. He does not own me. My voice cracked through the room like thunder. Booker smiled, proud, relieved. Good. That's the woman who's ready to finish this. Just then, his phone buzzed. He checked the screen and frowned. What is it? He looked up, concern deep in his eyes. The prosecutor wants you tomorrow morning. For what? To review a new piece of evidence? My stomach clenched. New? He nodded grimly. They found something else in the warehouse. I swallowed hard. Booker, what did they say it was? He exhaled slowly. A recorded confession. From who? His answer hit like a hammer. From Kendra.
The next morning, I woke with a weight on my chest so heavy, it felt like someone had pressed a stone into my ribs while I slept. Booker drove us back to the courthouse in silence, his hands steady on the wheel, his bruises fading into yellow shadows.
The world outside moved like molasses, slow, thick, numb. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't even angry. I felt hollow, like something had been scooped out of me, like all the versions of myself I'd been, trusting wife, forgiving friend, hopeful woman, had finally died the moment I realized Derek had been planning my downfall since childhood. But hollow wasn't the same as weak. Hollow just meant there was room to rebuild. We arrived at the courthouse through a side entrance, where police ushered us into a private conference room. The prosecutor, Miss Pamela Gaines, a stern-faced black woman with a tight bun and eyes sharp enough to cut steel, stood waiting with a laptop open. "You must be Zariah. Please sit." I sat. Booker sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. Miss Gaines folded her hands. "We obtained a new recording from the warehouse. Kendra confessed to something we didn't know, something you need to hear before this goes to trial." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" She pressed play. Kendra's voice filled the room. Shaky, panicked, and far less glamorous than the woman I used to know. "Stop yelling at me, Derek. I did everything you told me. I set it up. I met with Victor. I delivered the documents. You think this was all your plan? Without me, you'd still be broke." I flinched. Then she said something that took the air out of my lungs completely. "And don't act like you didn't promise me everything once she was gone. The house, the money, the life you took from me when we were teenagers." Teenagers? I froze. Booker stiffened beside me, his jaw clenching. The recording continued. Kendra sobbing, breathless. "You told me you loved me first. You told me she didn't matter. You told me we were meant to be. You told me I just had to wait until she was old enough for you to marry her." My blood ran ice cold. They weren't just lovers. They weren't just co-conspirators. Derek and Kendra had been in this together for years, before college, before my father died, before he ever pretended to fall in love with me. I felt sick to my stomach. Kendra cried harder. "You picked her because she had the inheritance, not because she was better than me. You used me to get to her. You used both of us." The recording ended with Derek yelling, "Shut up, Kendra, they're recording." Then chaos, then handcuffs, then silence. I stared straight ahead at the blank wall because I didn't trust myself to move, blink, or breathe too loudly. The prosecutor paused the audio. "This corroborates the timeline. It proves Derek used Kendra, manipulated her, and that their relationship began far earlier than we knew." I swallowed, voice thin. "So she wasn't just helping him, she was groomed?" In many ways, yes. Not excusing her actions. She made her choices. But she was under Derek's manipulation long before you showed up. A strange wave rushed over me. Not sympathy, not forgiveness. Something else. Something like mourning for all the lives Derek had mangled. Booker touched my arm gently. "You okay?" "No, but I will be." The prosecutor leaned forward. "Zariah, I know this is painful, but this recording solidifies the entire case. Derek doesn't just face charges for attempted murder. He faces charges for fraud, conspiracy, coercion, financial crimes, and predatory grooming." I closed my eyes. Good. Which brings us to the next step. We need your statement. But after this recording, I think you're ready. I nodded. I'm ready to be done with him. Giving my statement was brutal. Reliving every moment, the fear, the betrayal, the near death, the years of manipulation. It felt like pouring salt into wounds I hadn't even discovered yet. But I told the truth, every detail, every tear,
every instinct I ignored until ignoring became impossible. Booker watched silently, his presence a quiet shield. When I finished, Miss Gaines told me the trial would begin in a few months. "You will not have to face him alone," she said. For the first time, I believed that. When we walked out of the courthouse, the winter air hit my face like a baptism, sharp, cold, cleansing. People bustled around, unaware of the storm that had raged inside those walls. Booker turned to me. "You did good." "I feel empty," I whispered. "That's the first stage of freedom." We drove back to my house, not to move back in, but to pack what was left. When we arrived, police officers were already on site. They cleared the house, then let us in. Stepping inside was surreal. This was once my home. Now it was a crime scene, a graveyard of lies. I walked through the living room, touching the furniture with detached fingers. My wedding photos, the throw blanket Derek bought me, the candles Kendra said match my aura. All poisoned memories now. When I reached our bedroom, I paused. My side of the bed was neat. His was messy, fitting. Booker stood behind me. "What do you want to take?" Nothing connected to him. So I packed a suitcase with the clothes I bought myself. My journals, my father's letters, my grandmother's quilt, the small carved wooden angel Dad gave me when I was 10. "That's enough," I said finally. I walked out without looking back. A month passed. I moved into a sunlit apartment near the water, small but warm, with new furniture, fresh paint, and not a single memory of Derek. The first night I slept there, I cried. Not of grief, but relief. A different kind of release, the kind that tastes like healing. I renovated my father's company building, not to reopen it yet, but to restore what was his. I donated the life insurance policy back to the community center he built. I established a scholarship in his name. And every day, I stitched myself back together, slowly, gently, firmly. When Derek and Kendra's trial finally began, the courtroom was packed. Derek avoided my eyes, but I stared at him with the calmness of someone who had survived his worst. Kendra wept during her sentencing. She mouthed "I'm sorry" through tears. I didn't respond. I didn't owe her anything. When the verdict was read, guilty on all counts, I didn't cheer, I didn't cry. I simply breathed. Deep, steady, liberated. Booker squeezed my shoulder afterwards. "It's over." I nodded. Now I get to live. And I meant it. For months afterwards, I took back everything piece by piece. My independence, my joy, my faith in myself. I took a spiritual trip to Sedona, hiked through red rock trails, watched the sunrise over canyons, and whispered thank you to the universe for giving me another chance at life. I forgave myself. Not them, just me. And one morning, standing at the edge of a cliff with wind in my hair, I realized something crystal clear. I survived a man who thought he owned my entire future, but he never owned a second of my destiny. If you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe to join our community for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I truly love to know.